Coming up on this episode of Up for Debate, we're doing fears again. It's our Elite 8 Final Four and our champion of our fears bracket, which is the best fear. You're going to have to tune in to find out. It's happening right now. This is Up for Debate, episode number 94, recorded November 1st, 2017. Cheers for Fears, part boo. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Up for Debate. The podcast that does talk about anything, and certainly will. I'm Sean Jennings, joined as always by the spookiest man in your neighborhood. It is Mr. Matt Mariani.
Did you have a nice happy Halloween there, Mr. Sean Jennings?
It really could have been any other day. I didn't do any, and I even looked. I was like glancing out of. No one even in my condo complex was trick or treating. It was a non-event in the Jennings household. I have to be honest.
I'm trying to think of what would your scary name be if you had a scary name.
Oh, I know that's on Twitter. Everyone does this. This is the hot shit.
So, yeah, so you're Sean. So it would be like
Sean.
Gone. Gone. Gone.
Yours is easy because you could be Bat Mariani.
Yes.
Or like Matt Scariani.
Yes, Matt. That exactly. There you
like
go.
yours
Matt
is
Scariani.
Bat Scariani is like that. That took 2 seconds.
Yeah, Gone. Jlenning. Shennings is your name.
Is the scary part of it that it's unpronounceable gibberish?
Gone blending.
Gone blendings. That's a scary name. That is a scary name.
We'll come up with something. It's there. It's there. If you'd like to write in. What is this? The 1930s?
P.O. Box 108,
number.
New York.
Yeah.
Actually,
your chance to win a decoder ring.
Yeah, we don't do prizes at the bottom of the box.
Like message us over the Facebook, and with Sean Jennings' scary name, we'd be all for that.
Boy, would we! And I will say, if folks are watching live on Facebook right now, you're welcome to comment as well and let us know. Let us know what you think about that. Now, Matt, last week we were on this program, episode number 93. We started with 16 fears in our quest to pick the best bracket style head-to-head. This week, we're back with our Elite 8, our surviving winners from last time. We're going to narrow it down to a single one by the time we're done with this episode. Now,
That's all order.
We do have a bit of a correction. We were corrected by a fan last week. I don't remember if it was you or I. I'm going to say I claimed that there were not rattlesnakes in the Northeast. That is not true. Fan Colby Rabadou made sure to point out that there are rattlesnakes in the Northeast. Just one more thing to be afraid of.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you, Colby.
Snakes are scary. So with that, we can open up the debate.
Yeah, so let's go over our 4 matchups we'll start with, and then we'll dive into each one. For those who didn't listen last week. Remaining, we have snakes, ophidiophobia versus agoraphobia, the fear of open spaces. We'll also have acrophobia, the fear of heights, and chlorophobia, the fear of clowns. We will have trypophobia, the fear of holes, and chromatophobia, the fear of money. Lastly, we'll have tristidecaphobia, the fear of the number 13, and diphonophobia, the fear of dinner parties. So let's, as you mentioned, Matt, we can dive right into our first one. It's very topic appropriate because it is snakes versus open spaces.
Okay.
Do you want to kick this one off, or should I?
I'll jump right into it. Okay. These are very different fears for me. Looking at them, they're for me. I'm just thinking my way through this out loud, like step by step. Okay. A fear of a snake snakes, like that's a fear that you can remove. Like, all right, so the snake can go away on its own, or you can remove or have somebody remove the snake. It can get out of the way. It doesn't require much movement. I mean, you can also be the one that runs away from it. Movement on your part. The open space though, like that's not going anywhere. That's staying there until you're the one that moves. So just full blast, like I think I'm leaning more toward the open space right off the bat. I'm thinking open space is the way to go with this one. Again, we have certain criteria that we are evaluating these fears on based on, and I just think that the factor that the open space can't be controlled or moved in any way makes that one the better fear. So I'm going to go with fear of open spaces, agoraphobia.
Now, Matt, I will say back at that, in the previous round, I was a big proponent of open spaces. I kind of won that disagreement, if you want to call it winning, because you were quite in the other direction on that. And now I'm going to kick it. I'm going to kick it to the curb. I really think snakes is the better fear in this case, and that is simply because snakes are a realized fear. They are an absolute, realistic, gonna hurt you, don't go near it type fear. The fear of open spaces is more of a psychological fear. It's more in your mind, which is something I believe can be. That maybe this isn't fair. And I didn't, by the way, I did a disclaimer on our last episode. I should probably do it again. We are not doctors, nor are we trying to make fun of anyone's actual fears. This is a show for entertainment. We realize people do have actual fears, and they can be debilitating. And if we say things that sound, insensitive, they're not meant to be. We're just trying to be amusing. That being said, I feel like a fear of open spaces can be overcome with the mind. A snake you cannot overcome a snake with your mind. Because it will bite you.
But doesn't that fear, that psychological fear, to me, psychological fears are the best fears. I would see a movie that terrifies you psychologically instead of just like physically bare bones, like people jumping out and scaring you kind of movie. To me, a movie that like really chills you psychologically is a much. I think that's kind of the bread and butter of Stephen King, right? The author, his books are all about psychological terrors, not so much the brick and mortar fears, we'll call them.
Yeah, but
so I think that a psychological fear is just more powerful.
Yeah, but I'd also argue that which is scarier, you reading a Stephen King book or you physically being inside a Stephen King book? Like, that's the thing about snakes, is they're real and right in front of you. And you can't, what's scarier, a scary movie or being in a vat of snakes, Matt?
The open space is right in front of you too. You're physically there.
Yeah, but
the open space.
You're afraid of a concept. That's what I'm saying. You're not afraid of a physical object.
Totally. I totally agree. You are afraid of the concept, but to me, that is just fundamentally scarier than being afraid of a physical object. An idea that kind of debilitates you, because you can face an object, you can like confront it, you can conquer that object, you can somebody can kill a snake, or you can I just think that goes a longer way than that open space that's all right in front of you and terrorizing you psychologically. Because that's another thing, is that the person who's afraid of the open space, they know that is an unusual thing to be afraid of, so that it has a little bit of a social stigma attached to it, whereas a snake is a totally reasonable thing to be afraid of because it can bite you.
Matt, I think you've convinced me.
Whoa.
I think
okay.
I'm gonna, which I don't think happened at all last time, but I think the point is that we're trying to determine the best fear, and we've never really said what best means, but we've kind of given it a little bit of criteria. But I would say snakes is too rational of a fear to be the best fear. Snakes is too predictable of a fear to be a best fear. I would say, I don't know. Actually, this here we go, Matt. We're going to actually back up our talk with interesting things. I found a survey. They surveyed back in 2001. They surveyed 43,000 U.S. adults about specific phobias. Now, there's a technical difference between a fear and a phobia. I won't get into it. It's more of a medical diagnosis, calling it a phobia, of specific things. And the number one most common, 5% of U.S. adults surveyed found that they had a fear of insects, snakes, birds, or other animals. And it was the most common in the survey. And so I just think that that's not really, that's just a general fear. It's not a best fear. So I'm gonna give it to you. I think open space should win. I think it's a little more interesting. I think it's got that going for it.
All right, open space.
I want to put that on the list here, and we're going to continue on to our next head-to-head here, and we have got acrophobia, the fear of heights, which, by the way, was the second most popular fear in that 43,000 U.S. adults surveyed, just behind animals, who's going against clowrophobia, the fear of clowns. Matt.
Okay. Heights versus clowns.
Heights versus clowns. I guess it's my turn to go first on this one.
Sure.
I think this of the four we have here on the sheet, our four first head-to-heads tonight, this is the most difficult for me because I really feel like both sides have very compelling arguments. Starting with heights, I think heights, in the same vein as snakes, is a very rational fear. Man was not meant to fly. Man was not built to build tall buildings. Man should not be higher than a certain height. I genuinely believe that. And so I think it's a realized fear. I think it's a very natural, very evolutionary survival fear. And I think that it is a very... And the thing about snakes is I feel like snakes are a little more avoidable than heights because in the modern era, it's very common to go in tall buildings, very common to go in airplanes. I just think that that's a much more common occurrence. So it's got that going for it. When it comes to clowns are fucked up. I'm just going to come right out and say, and we talked about this last week, clowns are out of space. They have no business existing in 2017. I get why they existed in the 30s or the 1880s or whenever. I get the idea of a court jester. Like, I get that. 2017, we don't need clowns. Why are they here? There's just something off-putting. It's an individual who is hidden behind a mask or a face paint, so you don't know who they are. There's that element to it. Very exaggerated features. They're messing with the human form, which I think is on a very sub level. It's very off-putting as a human being, and I don't get it. I think I'm going to lean towards one or the other, Matt, but I want you to go ahead and let me know what you think first.
Yeah. I mean, I think that heights. This is a very similar one to what we just, like the debate we just had, right? The height is more of an idea. It's more of a psychological terror. And the clown is more of a realized terror. Like, even though it's against my own better judgments, because I feel like last time I argued pretty hardcore for why clowns weren't scary. I think that that's the better fear. I think that clowns are just terrifying in that they, yeah, like you said, they don't belong in today's world, and like they're kind of this antiquated leftover thing that is still lingering there, and it's they're meant to be enjoyed. They're meant to be like comical, and the fact that they've become so twisted into the opposite, something that's feared now. And they're just, yeah, there's something creepy about them. There's something surreal about them.
Well, and one thing I want to say, and I didn't say this earlier, but, I really think the media has not done clowns any favor. I think John Wayne Gacy being a serial killer clown has not done clowns any favor. I mean, I don't know if they really get a fair crack at this. I think that they've been a little a little on. We had this cats versus dogs debate on a previous episode. I said cats really kind of had a bad rap. I think it's kind of the same for clowns. I mean, there's really fundamentally, yeah, they're weird, but I think the media has really skewed us towards not liking clowns.
Yeah. You got all the movies about it and all that. It's out right now. Yeah, I think I'm leaning more toward the clown option. Are you?
Matt, I think I'm going to agree with you. I think clowns are just fucked up. And, there was some survey I saw a few years ago where it's on like 90% of children don't like clowns. Who are clowns for? It's the same thing if I saw a chimney sweep, I'd probably be terrified. Like, why are you here? It's just very odd.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing is that, like, while heights are very scary, there's a part of being up high that's exhilarating, and there's a part of it that, like, while it's terrifying, it's also still very, very exciting. And it's just clowns are just pure terror. So I think clowns it is.
Clowns it is.
We'll lock in clowns.
Put it on the list here. And we will continue on in our ongoing quest here to our next matchup, Matt, on the more eccentric side of our bracket. And that is going to pit trypophobia, the fear of holes, against chromatophobia, the fear of money, Matt. What do you think? This is such an odd matchup. What do you think of these two fears?
Yeah. I find both of them. This is probably the most interesting matchup in our debate tonight. Just very intriguing fears. I really want to study both of these, like, and kind of like these ones really seem like there is something psychologically going on with both of these concepts, like very, very Freudian and very like subliminally. Okay, like a fear of a hole, like so much that Freud and other psychologists could have said about that. Of money, another like exploration altogether. Again, though, I'm going to give this one the fear of holes. I'm going to give it to holes because the fear of money thing is just so ambiguous. It's too ambiguous. Like, are you afraid of the concept of money? Are you afraid of having too much money? Are you afraid of having not enough money? Are you afraid of the paper and the metal itself? Like, what scares you about the money? I still don't really fully understand that. So I'm going to give this one to holes. Our fear of a hole is, I think you might have said this, fear of a hole is like the fear of the unknown. Like, you gaze into the abyss and the abyss gazes back at you. If you're looking into a deep hole, you're afraid of. Are you afraid of being trapped in the hole? I think is a legitimate fear itself. Are you afraid of falling down and dying in the hole? Or are you afraid that the hole never will end, that you will always just constantly keep falling down the hole? I think it says a lot about the person who's afraid of it or who has that fear. It's just a very interesting one. I'm going to keep this one.
Matt, I'll just get my decision point out of the way right up front. I agree with you. I think holes is the winner, and I think at least for me, I'm really settling on a theme for tonight, which is I'm not giving a lot of points to super common fears. And I know that you kind of said, what is the fear of money? I think a lot of people have a fear of money. I just think it's not in a traditional, like the physical dollar bill or coin. I don't think is what I think people are afraid of the concept of money. When you define a phobia, I don't want to get into it too much because I'm not a doctor or a licensed mental health professional, but a phobia is very closely linked to anxiety. That's really the side effect of fear. And I think a lot of people have financial anxiety. They have anxiety over money. I think there is a fear of that. We talked last week about my general disinterest in winning the lottery. I wouldn't say I have a fear of it, but I feel like I certainly would have much anxiety over it. So I think this idea of money being a common phobia is something I think a lot of people deal with. And I agree with you. The concept of holes is bizarre in such a fast, even more so than open spaces. I just think this idea of, and you kind of pointed it out, having a fear of what's not there is like such a I don't want to say, again, we're not making light of people's fears, but it's such a cool idea to think that there is this phobia and anxiety around the lack of something, a gap in something, that you are afraid of what's on the other side of this hole, whether you're falling into it or you simply can't see to the other side of it. To me, there's something really cool going on there. I just think the fear of money is just too understandable. It's hard to make it a best fear when it's just a standard fear.
Agreed.
So, note
Holes
that
it
one
is.
down. All right, Matt, we got our last of our Elite 8 here. And that would be triskaidekaphobia, the fear of the number 13, going up against diphonophobia, the fear of dinner parties, Matt. I'm still kind of bummed the Pope didn't win. I don't want to dredge up old wounds. That one was the dice roll. I still think the Pope. I'm just saying they'll come back next year, but
Yeah, they will. All right. So I think you.
Yes,
you,
I get to go first on this one. Yes. We went back and forth on this last week. I think. Again, we're getting another one of these practical fears versus ethereal fears, because for me, the fear of a dinner party, and I'm going to stretch it a little bit, but it really is a social anxiety fear, right? I think a lot of people have fears of dinner parties. A lot of people don't like to go out in social situations. I feel like that's a very common fear, probably one of the most common. In fact, Matt, there was another survey. They surveyed 9,000 U.S. adults in 2001 on the topic of what they called social scares. The number one most common, public speaking. After that, speaking up in a meeting. Following that, meeting new people, which I would kind of categorize this in as well. Going to parties, 13% of those surveyed had a fear of. Talking with strangers, 13%. Writing, eating, and drinking while being watched, 8% of people. So I feel like this is a very common one. When it comes to the problem is the number 13, I also feel is at least a little more common than, say, the fear of holes or some of these more obscure ones. But Jesus Christ, I really struggle on this one, because I think while the dinner party fear I kind of connect to and understand more, I've never understood the number 13. I don't, like, every fear on this list, I understand why it's a fear. Even the fear of the Pope, I get why it's a fear. I still don't get why the number 13 evokes a fear. And for me, that really hurts its chances. I don't know, Matt. What do you say on these two?
I've got to say, the number 13 fear has got to go, because I've never met anyone that has triskaidekaphobia. It's just not. I have a theory that it was just invented by
greeting card companies to sell greeting cards. No, that's something else.
No, probably somebody invented it. It's a conspiracy.
The number 12 invented it.
Yeah, it's fake news, and I think that it needs to end. I think that the real person here, the real fear is the fear of dinner parties, because that's an understandable one. Like, social anxiety is 100% totally understandable. But being afraid of a number, I think that's like, that ship has sailed. That's like gone with the invention of the telegraph.
Yeah,
let's just call it.
Aren't you the same guy who argued a fear of ghosts last week, which to me seems like a dated
totally
concept?
That's something completely different.
In an age of science, not to rehash this, but in an age of science, in the same way clowns are kind of out of place in modern society, and a fear of the number 13 is out of place. I feel like you can argue ghosts are also when there's a weird
No.
noise in your house, you know it's
You
not.
can go ahead and tell that to the ghosts.
All
All right.
right. We're gonna have to leave that because this will get out of control. Dinner parties, it is. I'm gonna agree with you, and we're gonna move on here to our next round. But Matt, why don't we take a brief intermission here? I got to ask you, we're taping this on Wednesday night, Game 7 of the World Series. Who you got?
Oh, okay.
I know you're the only person I know who's a fan of baseball.
Oh, okay.
So I have to ask you.
I am
Yeah.
wearing my shirt. So I this has been, and I say this with full honesty, the most exciting World Series I've ever
Hell yeah.
seen. This has been an amazing World Series. I've watched every game to completion.
Too late. Too late.
They're up. I mean, I'm up like all hours. I'm so sleep deprived right now, but it's been so worth it. I've loved every minute. And it's such a tough call. I want to give it to the Dodgers tonight just because the only thing coming down to it is the home field advantage. I think that plays a huge part in how this, if the game was in Houston, I would give it to Houston. I think the home field advantage is really like these teams are so close together in terms of skill. They're so compatible, and there's so much like the yin to the yang. I think that the home field advantage really is that point breaker that like will actually make the difference between the two, because something has to. But then again, I mean, you never know. I think that last night was really scary in Game 6. I think it was really scary for the Dodgers. I thought that the manager was getting a little too he was over managing a little bit. I think he was getting a little too panicked with his bullpen management. And I thought that was going to do them in the end, but they held it together and, staved it off. Like last game, I think had the lowest amount of offense, or at least I think it had the lowest score.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, it's been wonderful to watch. Tonight's the last night. I wish the best of luck for both teams. I don't really have a preference one or the other, and I think that's been that's what's made me enjoy the game even more. Is this is the first time in a long time I can remember that I really just did not have a dog in the fight. I didn't really have a strong preference of one over the other. I think it'd be cool to see either team win. But yeah, I think there's the quality of play has been unsurpassed. So, I actually joked last year when the Cubs won the World Series after that 40-minute rain delay and that dramatic comeback in Game 7, and they were down, 2-0 or whatever, 3-0.
Yeah.
They fought all the way back to win the series. I said, you know what? This needs to be the series finale of baseball. This is the point. This would be the point in the regular show where it's not going to get any better than this. And you would just make this the season finale, the series finale, and it would just end. But I totally take back that statement after seeing this world. I think this World Series has been more exciting just for the fact that these teams are on such an equal playing field. Let's face it, last year, Cleveland just shit the bed. They had that 3-game lead and they just fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
These two teams have fought tooth and nail. Every game is so close.
They're so evenly
and
matched.
You can tell both teams just really want it more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
One team is going to be extremely disappointed tonight, and the other team will be just celebrating all over town. But anyway, that's what is your take on the World Series?
I wish I actually had seen more of it. I can't do these late nights, and so I missed the game that went to extra innings. I didn't see that, which was very sad. But it really has been a phenomenal series. I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but I've been greatly enjoying it. A lot of offense is always good offense, so that makes it very action-packed to watch. I don't care how juiced the balls are. I like watching home runs. I think I agree. Both teams are very evenly matched. Home field advantage has been big, but each team has won an away game. So, maybe they're getting over that a little bit. Tonight's game is almost impossible to predict. I've seen all the sort of smart computer analytics say 50-50 toss-up. So, it's all about which team. If one team can just run up the score like crazy, although I say that, but then these teams, I mean, they just come back from nothing, and they just, wow, it's been very exciting. I agree with you. Last year's World Series was awesome to watch. That Game 7 with the rain delay and all this stuff. And I think this World Series has surpassed it. It's been a lot of fun. I don't have a pick. I think it's difficult to predict. If you gun to my head, maybe the Dodgers, but I really think it's fool's gold to try and predict the winner. But I'm excited to catch some of that game. Matt, I'll let you know. Do you want to get? They just finished the top of the first. Can you guess the score?
Is it 0-0?
No, Houston is up 2-0. Yu Darvish.
Whoa.
Giving up some runs. Yes, sir. One was an error.
Okay.
One run was an error. And the other, yeah. So it's a high offense game already. Get excited.
But I mean, see that would mean something in a normal game, but just the way that this series has been 2-0, it might as well still be 0-0.
Oh, for sure. A team could be up 7-0, and I'd still say no. It's a close game. I mean, it's bananas. It's so much fun. Anyhow,
the Dodgers haven't even gotten to bat yet. It says the middle of the first.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's crazy. We could be in the third inning. It could be 20-20. Who knows? I mean, with these teams, it's exciting. So look forward to that. I know people come to us for baseball talk, but we've got to get back to fears because we have our final four, Matt.
Indeed. Let's do this. The final four.
Boom. Nail it. Matt, we've got Open Spaces versus Clowns. Open Spaces versus Clowns.
Versus Clowns. Right.
That's right. Tough
matchup.
Do you want to take this one or should I?
Well, I think we should just keep going with this turn order thing, right?
Yes. So I think
it's my turn.
Yes.
Okay. Open Spaces, Clowns. I'm gonna go with the Open Spaces. This is a really tough one because I really want both of these to keep going and to make it, but we got to say goodbye to one, and I think we got to say goodbye to the Clowns. Like, Clowns are really scary. We get that, but again, it's that unknown. You know what?
Oh boy,
you
sound
really
very
don't
conflicted.
know. I really don't know about this one. I don't know if I can let go of Clowns. Clowns is a pretty scary fear. Like, I guess it's just hard because I don't understand. I understand the fear of clowns more than I understand the fear of the open spaces.
Sure.
Now, to me, the open spaces still has that psychological edge to it, which I think lends it just more weight because it's like as a better fear, because we are arguing which fear is the best fear. As a quality fear, I think that the fear of open spaces, it just is more intriguing. I think there's more to unpack there. I dropped my microphone. That open space fear, like there's got to be a lot more going on. Like, what does it feel like to be terrified of an open space, of nothingness, of the void? I'm a little conflicted. I'm leaning towards the open spaces, but I'm not convinced. All right, can you push me over the edge one way or another?
Well, the problem is, man, I'm conflicted too. You know, the bracket format works. We really the cream really does rise to the top on this one, and I think we have a couple really great fears here. You know, I think clowns is a fundamentally sound fear. in all the right metrics. But the problem I have is, and this is, I feel like this is cheating. I don't feel like I'm allowed to do this, but I'm already thinking ahead to the championship match. And it's like, can we really declare clowns as the best fear? Like, that's so predictable and obvious, and there's nothing. It's again, it's like clowns are scary because they're scary. There's no real reason or purpose. There's not even like a psychological. It's just they're scary because we say they're scary, and that is quite a ding on clowns. That I look and I'm like, are we going to sit here at the end of the day and say the best fear is clowns? I may not win the championship game, but the thing about the open space fear is, I agree with you, it is a very intriguing fear. It is one that I think is, frankly, almost a little more. I know you said you think it's a little less. I almost think it's a little more understandable than clowns, because at least there's a reason to be scared of open spaces. The clowns are, not quite as much for me. I'm super conflicted on these. I know we really have to make a decision, and I think God damn. Oh, Jesus Christ. I think, I don't know, Matt, did I convince you one way or the other?
um, I'm still gonna. I think I'm gonna lock it in for open spaces. I think I definitely agree with your assessment. Can we really let clowns get to the final? Like, I think I'm a little more convinced now, because open spaces as a psychological fear is just more. It's just more interesting. It's just, there's just more to it. Like, clowns are scary. We get it. We see a clown. It looks scary. Has the makeup. We don't want him to be around, but like, we understand. I think we just have a better understanding of why clowns are scarier. The open spaces is just much more cerebral as a fear. And it's one that's more unknown, and I think that's really cool. So I'm giving it to open spaces.
I think I'm going to have to back you up on this, Matt, and I want to make very clear, clowns is a great fear. I love the fear of clowns. I'm 100% behind that. Clowns are weird, and you should be afraid of them. I am gangbusters on the fear of clowns, but it's not the best fear, and I don't think it's a better fear than open spaces. And that's in this because we have to do it on the matchup, and I think on this matchup, you really can't look me in the eye and say, yeah, Sean, clowns are a great fear. And it's like, well, they are, but are they the best fear? And I think we're going to have to move open spaces onto our championship round, if you can believe it.
Yep.
And we've got one other Final Four match, and that would be Holes versus Dinner Parties. I get to go first on this one. Oh, boy, another really intriguing matchup. We just covered these. I think this one's a little easier for me. I don't know about you, Matt. I think this one's a little easier for me to pick between these two. Because, again, for similar reasons we discussed before, I think the fear of dinner parties, social anxiety fears, again, it's a good fear. It's not a great fear. It's not the best fear. It's a quality fear, but it's a common fear. But I just don't feel like there's not enough meat on those bones, you know what I'm saying, to really grab onto and say, hey, there's something here. I get, it's the most common fears we have as people. It's a little bit too foundational for me to get excited about. And there's just something, you mentioned it before, I think there's just something really, really mystifying about the fear of holes. Although now I'm realizing we might have holes versus open spaces, which is kind of annoyingly similar. Although maybe that'll make a great matchup. We'll see if it wins. But I think I'm leaning towards holes in this head-to-head as much as I like the fear of dinner parties. I think it's a good Final Four contestant. I just don't know if it should make it to the finals. What about you?
Yeah. I think that both of these fears are really, yeah, again, like you said, cream rises. This is where it gets really tough. We got to make a decision. Honestly, did you think that dinner parties would make it this far? Did you think
Well,
that that would be the one? It's
Matt,
made it pretty far.
when
This
when
is
I
this is Dinner Parties is definitely the underdog in this
when I put the
this whole thing.
so I defined the bracket in a particular. I purposefully did half and half normal fears and weird fears, knowing that an unusual fear would make it to the finals. That was by design. And I think looking at the
But I
list
thought
of 8 weird
that,
phobias, I'm not necessarily surprised.
I don't know. I really thought like of the unusual fears, um I thought it would be of those particular four in that sector. I thought the number 13. I thought that was gonna make it further. That turned out to be a bust.
But I think if the Pope had gone up against dinner parties, I think the Pope would have won. I'm just saying,
You're probably right.
I think I agree. Dinner
No, we
parties
don't.
is not a thrilling fear. I think it's one of those teams. It's like the 8 seed who gets to the Final Four, and you're like, yeah, but they had an easy corner of the bracket. I think dinner party, while a good
Yeah.
fear, I think the road here was paved with easy matchups.
Agreed. Agreed. I'm just gonna go with holes. I think everybody's kind of like I've kind of shown my hand on this. Like
Yeah,
I'm all about the unusual, the psychological, the unexplainable, like really fears that need to be unpacked and like looked at. And holes, I think there's something really interesting there and something really just I want to pick I want to pick the fear that I want to read more about, the one that I want to learn more about and study why someone would have this fear or why this could be considered a common fear or in the world, at least in the world of phobias. So I'm going with holes. Holes is gonna for my choice for the final.
all right, very good. Well, it looks like our final set is determined. Our final two, our championship game, it all comes down to this. That one shining moment. God, I love when they do that. It is holes versus open spaces. Now, Matt, we'll take another brief intermission because we're actually going to hit our time well here. But we talked at the beginning of the show what I did for Halloween, which was nothing. But we didn't really get into what did you do for Halloween? We got distracted before I got the answer.
I'm gonna say also nothing.
Oh,
I didn't get a single trick or treater. It was getting a little late for trick or treaters, so we wandered outside for a bit and we decided to walk around our nearby neighborhood, just kind of take in the scenery, take in the atmosphere.
now,
It was fun. It was a nice walk. There definitely were people out and about, but I guess when you live in an apartment building, it's a little different. Like, unless somebody organizes it, nobody
Right.
really goes door to door when there's a neighborhood with actual houses right nearby.
now, did you get dressed up for
So-
school?
No, actually, did not. Again, because nobody like spearheaded it. So I'm in that kind of a thing. I'm definitely a follower. I'm not the one that's going to organize that. So.
Gotcha.
If other people were dressing up, I probably would have, but it's just I'm poor and it's hard to justify
Sure.
buying a costume or something like that just to wear it once and then never wear it again. Like
Agreed.
I'm just not in that financial space right now to do that. So I mean, yes, it's true. I could have bought like a hat or something, but I don't know.
I think you should have shaved
maybe-
off the goatee and gone as Evil Matt.
No, I am evil Matt. The goatee Matt is the evil Matt.
Ooh, that would have been even better. I'm Matt's twin brother, Mitch Mariani. I'm the good one.
That's right. It could have been the good twin.
Okay. Anyhow, figured I would ask. I was curious. Let's get into it, Matt. We've got. It's going to be difficult, but we cannot leave here without picking a winner. And we have our matchup here: holes versus open spaces. I think you're up in the rotation. You get the champ. You get to call the championship game. Look at you. And we have to decide between these two. Where do you see holes and open spaces, Matt? Two semi-similar ideas. They're really not. Does it? We talked about holes and dinner party. Does it surprise you that open spaces got this far on that side of the bracket?
It doesn't. It doesn't surprise me. I kind of I kind of thought that open spaces would do well. It's a pretty common fear. It surprises me that it made it to the final. I didn't think it would make it this far, but I thought it would do well. I don't think it. I kind of saw what it was going up against, and I think it was actually, honestly, I think it was going to be whoever won between those two, open spaces and closed spaces, because that's just such a typical fear. Yet at the same time, it's got that psychological element to it. And it's of course a very strong fear and very resonant fear. But this is a tough one. This is a tough one because we're talking about two really subliminal, like arcane fears. Fear of holes versus fear of open spaces.
It's a tough one. While you're thinking in silence, which is fun for audio listeners,
Tough
I will say that I'm not surprised Clowns made it as far as it did. I'm actually pretty surprised about open spaces. I'm not going to lie. We had a lot of really good fears on that side. Snakes and spiders, claustrophobia, which is pretty common, needles, heights. I mean, these were really top quality fears. And I think we've discovered over these 2 hours of talking about fears that we like the weird stuff. We don't really do the traditional fears here. I think our final two really reflect. I think we took one of, maybe ghosts would have been stranger, but I think open spaces is probably the strangest we had on that side of the bracket, in terms of lack of commonality and sort of etherealness of it. So in that respect, I guess it's not surprising.
Yes. I have come to a decision
Okay.
between the two fears. Going to give it to should I tell you, or should I just say that I'm leaning towards one? I don't want to influence you one way or another.
Well, why don't you hold off? I've already made my pick, so why don't you hold off?
Okay.
And I'll go through my thought process, and then you can jump in and say, no, it's terribly wrong, or yes, and then that way you get to crown the champion when we both agree. How's that?
All right. Fair enough. Let's do that.
So between these two, again, both great fears, both very similar. But again, I think for me, the fear of open spaces is just a little too broad, and I think it's a little too sort of inconsequential, I guess is not really the right word. For me, the fear of holes is just specific enough to be understandable in a technical sense, but also broad enough to be like, whoa, that's kind of wacky. If you were afraid of one specific hole, like that might be reasonable, but we're talking about all holes. That's bizarre. And so there's something, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I think the best fear is the fear of holes, Matt. Holy shit. How did we get to this goddamn moment? Open spaces is a good fear, a great fear, a final two fear, I'll even agree. But I just think that it's just a little too broad for me to really say that is the best fear.
A little too wide open, huh?
Yes. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I think no matter what, whether we give it to holes or if we give it to open spaces, I think that we've determined that the scariest place you can visit is the Grand Canyon. Right? God, who knew that we would make it to this moment?
Oh, that's awesome.
Holes or open spaces. I'd like to say that this will be a Dodgers Astros like moment, but I gotta also give it to holes. That was the one I was leaning towards. I was before you even started with your statement, holes was the one that I was looking at, and I was like, I just want to know more about this. Like the fear of holes, this trypophobia, just
get the technical name out there.
I want to know I want to know where it came from. I want to know like what defines a hole that you can legitimately be terrified of. What are the dimensions of these holes in the ground? Like I've got to give it to the holes. So
Well, there you go, Matt. It's official. We have named the 2017 Best Fear. Oh, get into the song part. Jesus. Okay, anyway, now they're playing NCAA clips, so never mind that. Anyway, that was a... I'm going to edit that part out. Congratulations to Holes, our 2017 Best Fear. Wow, what a shocking outcome. An underdog victory, to be sure. One that will be remembered in the record books for years to come, Matt. And I think we picked a fantastic champion. We're not saying it's the scariest fear. We're not saying it's the most unique fear. We're saying it's the best fear. And I think we've done an outstanding job here. I'm going to congratulate us and congratulate Holes on being very weird, kind of off-putting, something like that. Gosh darn it, I can't believe we did. That was, I think, one of the best brackets we've ever done. If you agree with us or disagree with us or like the bracket format or don't like the bracket format, let us know. Tweet us at UpForDebateTV or email us upfordebatetv@gmail.com and let us know what you think. We're definitely going to do more brackets. I think it's a fun way to have these discussions. And so coming up, we'll do more at some point in the future, Matt. But that was great.
yeah, good stuff.
Maybe we'll have to do one on best Thanksgiving sides. Maybe coming up.
Hey, that's not a bad idea. I do like these brackets. It makes me feel like things that I say on this podcast are important and have weight.
Well, I just think it's more fun because we could just rank stuff, but I feel like arbitrarily pitting them against each other in a competition is like way more fun than that. Because then you're judging like, it's not like the fear of holes against all other fears. It's the fear of holes against the fear of cheese. Like that's so specific.
Yeah, I like this format. So holes it is.
Holes look out for holes. Now, Matt, we have a little bit of time left here at the end of the show. And this might be a fun opportunity because next week on the feed will be our 2017 winter movie draft, which we taped about 2 weeks ago. And just because of the episode order, it's going to be posted next week. So if you're listening to this, it's the following episode in the feed. They will be out of... So this is episode 94. That will be 92. I realize they're out of number order, but it will be the next one in the feed. Matt, we mixed it up this year. I was still MC and auctioneer, but we had 5 teams of 2 competing in an all-new digital-based bidding system. You were on one of the teams. Without giving too much away, you want to tell the folks a little bit about how things went and the experience and what they can look forward to next week?
You're going to look forward to a lot of... well, first of all, you might notice some changes if you are a longtime listener, viewer of our show. You're going to notice that the format of this draft, it was when we went digital this year with an all new platform built by our very good friend Dan Miller, friend and contestant, I should mention.
Yes, your
and I think that I really do think that format definitely changed some things. I felt personally a little bit more impulsive.
It's fast. It's very fast.
Yes, it moved up to a much more fast-paced, much more kind of streamlined format. And I think that, I think it works differently for different people. It can be intimidating for some. For me, I found it to be just very easy to kind of like punch in those numbers and bid and place my bid really quick. I won't give away whether or not that worked out in my favor or not. I'll let you be the judge of that, viewers, when you tune in next week.
Yeah, I honestly think it's one of the best drafts we've ever done. It was a lot of fun because we had all different people. We had, I think, 4 or 5 new people join us.
I was gonna say, yeah, it was also the biggest draft we've done so far.
A lot of people on the Skype call, but that made it fun.
Definitely added an element. The team aspect added an element too. This is our first ever team movie draft, and I think that that led to a lot more asides and a lot more
teams trying to whisper to each other, but we all heard what they were saying.
Yeah, kind of like conferences and things like that. Yeah, it was different but good.
It was a blast, and I always tell people that's really, if you watch any one of our episodes on YouTube throughout the year, that is the one, because we had all 10 people and myself on video during the call, and we had on-screen graphics during the draft, so you could actually see the bids as they were coming in. So a great one to watch on our YouTube channel, and check out the video.
High production value.
It's the one we put effort into, so you're going to want to check that out. Mm-hmm. And of course, we'll be updating you on the league throughout the year here on the show. Every week on Monday on Coffee and Beer Radio at anchor.fm/Coffee and Beer Radio, or just anchor.fm/Coffee and Beer, or search Coffee and Beer Radio wherever you get your podcasts, and on our website at anytime, upfordebate.tv/movies. But definitely check out the episode next week, Matt. I got to be honest with you, and this is by no means a backdoor brag, but I picked you to win the winter draft last year, and you did. I picked Phil to win the summer draft this past year. He did. Again, I'm not trying to brag. What I'm trying to say is I really am struggling to pick who I think is going to win this one. And that says a lot because to me it is not, no one got, again, no spoilers, but I don't think anyone got such a crushing lineup like you had last winter. My God. I don't think anyone really had a fair shot. So I think it's going to make for a great season, and it made for a great draft. So check that out on the feed next week. It's a can't miss episode. We'll be back the week after that with more great shows. I don't know yet what we're going to talk about, but gosh darn it, we're going to have fun doing it. Thanks everybody for joining us here tonight. I mentioned upfordebate.tv being our website. The links to everything there. I won't go through the whole 9 yards. Just click the subscribe button and get links to everywhere you can subscribe and follow us right there on the website. But that's going to do it for us here. So on behalf of Matt, I am Sean. Thanks all of you so much for joining us. May you have a scary time out there. Watch out for holes. And we'll see you next time for more great discussion here on Up for Debate.